Hey everyone, how's it going? And welcome to another episode of Top 5 Saturdays Live with me, Chase Lee, and my co-host.
Brian Sutfield.
That's fucking right. And hey, listen, guys, if you're new to the show, welcome. What we do in the show is we take a look at the new releases coming out on Friday. We will pick said movie, and we will honor said movie with either an actor, actress, genre, type of movie. You guys get the fucking drill. Anyways, it's late. So that's what we do on the show. The cool thing about this is that we do it live, so we have no idea what the hell is going to happen or come out of our mouths, and we don't know each other's list. But before we get into our topic, B-Suds, how are we doing? Are you glad that you're almost done with your first semester of college-o?
Yes and no. Yesterday, I registered for my classes for the second semester. Dude, I am telling you right now, that was one of the worst hours of my entire life because right after my writing class, me and three other film majors, we went downstairs in the basement of one of the buildings, and we waited because we couldn't register till 1 o'clock. So the moment it said 1 o'clock, we refreshed the page, we registered, we got into almost every class we're supposed to take except for one. There's this class that we have to take our second semester as filmmakers. It's called Acting for Filmmakers. We're supposed to teach people how to direct actors and stuff. I was excited to take it, but can't get into it because there's no more spots. So I had to email my advisor. I'm waiting for a response so I can get into the class. It's a pain in the ass, but hey. Yeah, but everything else was pretty damn good. It's the week before Thanksgiving. I'm excited to just grab food, and there's so many movies coming out. I'm going to probably see a movie every day when I'm home next week, like every day from Wednesday till Sunday, which is going to be a delight. But other than that, I'm doing pretty damn good. How are you, sir?
Oh, just another week in paradise. As Brian knows, I saw a movie every single night this week, and I'm exhausted.
Which is awesome.
It's awesome, but it's exhausting. Because yesterday and today, I had to catch up on all of my TV shows and stuff, and had to do all my reviews and kill me. It's fun though. Speaking of acting and directing class, I remember I took that. When I was in school, I took that class, and then I took a producing and directing class, and it was very interesting. I did a PSA over Crohn's disease. I wonder why. All right, so I'm doing pretty good, but I'm really excited about this week's episode. Brian, what are we doing this week?
Oh God, this is a very exciting and very different episode for us. We're not honoring an actor, genre, director. We are honoring the series. We're going to be doing our top 5 moments from the Harry Potter series. Yeah, boy.
Holy shit. I want you guys to put this in perspective. There are 8 films. Each one of them averages about 2 hours and 20 minutes. So if you want to do a math on that, that's almost a full day's worth. That's almost 24 fucking hours of content. I know it's not 24 hours because, I'm not good at math. However, it's damn close to 24 hours, and that is a shit ton of moments to pick from. Brian, how the hell did you even whittle down this list?
Dude, this was the hardest list we've ever done. This is the hardest list ever. Now, look, I think the second hardest episode we've ever done was the 3 Cole films. The episode we did with Francesca and Ash? That was a really difficult episode because there were a lot of good three Coles, third installments and series. This is an entire franchise. We're taking all moments from all 8 films. It's not easy because every film is good, if not great. Now, as Chase knows, and for those who are new and don't know, Harry Potter is my favorite franchise ever. It's my favorite franchise of all time. I love all the films. I love the books. I've been to the Wizarding World. It's fantastic. I just saw Fantastic Beasts last night. If you want to know my thoughts, go to my YouTube channel. And this was a very awesome list for me to do, but it was so difficult because here's what I tried to do. I tried to put one scene from one film, but instead I kind of cheated and I put 2 sequences from one particular film. Because I told Chase this, I didn't put anything funny, but then I'm like, you know what? I have to put one comedy sequence, a comedic scene in this list, and I did it. It was a really difficult list. It took me at least an hour to come up with this list. So, yeah, talk about a big Potterhead I am.
Yeah, this is going to be interesting because like I was telling Brian before we started recording, Brian has read the books. I have not. So it is going to be interesting to have a book perspective versus someone that has literally just seen the films and kind of just going, because you guys have to keep in mind, every surprise that was thrown at me, I had no idea what was coming. And speaking of surprises, this episode is spoiler filled. So we're just giving you a fair heads up. We're not going to shy away because I have plenty of spoiling moments on my list.
So do I.
Yeah, so we're not going to stunt on this one. So if you guys have not seen Harry Potter and you don't want to be spoiled, I'm sorry. Bookmark it, come back. But yeah, we're going to get all up in this shit. We're going to get on the butt crevices, and it's going to be fantastic. So yeah, I'm really excited to dive into this. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what kind of reasonings he has versus I have as someone that has not even, well, I've read I've read 2 chapters of Sorcerer's Stone, and I've read half of a page of Prisoner of Azkaban. Does that count? So I'm not even joking. That's how much I've literally read. But yeah, you know what's really cool about this franchise is that I'm really glad I get to brag about this all the time. I grew up with those actors, literally. Daniel Radcliffe, Emma Watson, and Rupert Grint are literally all my age. So when I remember when I was in 6th grade, when the first one came out, I saw it and I was the same age as them, and I grew up with these actors. So I don't know. I feel a better connection that way than reading the books. So I don't know. I need to start reading more books instead of Entertainment Weekly magazine. Sorry. So without any further ado, let's get this started, guys. And as always, comment down below and let us know what some of your favorite moments of the Harry Potter films that you guys have. Brian, please make sure that your description is short because my board is very small. So what is your number 5 favorite Harry Potter moment from the Harry Potter franchise?
Okay, my number 5, this is the only comedic sequence I put on the list. Like I said, I had to put at least one funny moment because here's the thing with the Potter films. They're dark, they're gritty, but people need to realize when you think about it, they're all really funny. They're all funny, especially even Deathly Hallows Parts 1 and 2. So for me, the funniest moment to me in the whole series is the Ministry of Magic sequence in Deathly Hallows Part 1.
Okay.
Now, for those of you who don't remember this sequence, which you should, so Harry, Hermione, and Ron have to go into the Ministry of Magic to grab one of the Horcruxes that's around Dolores Umbridge. And they have to disguise themselves as Ministry of Magic members, and it's one of the funniest things I think I've ever seen in my life because they have to pretend like they're these certain characters, and they're all walking very funny and stuff. They go into the bathroom, and in order to get into the Ministry of Magic, you have to flush yourself down the toilet. And Harry goes into one stall, then Ron comes up over there. He's like, we have to flush ourselves. That's bloody disgusting. Then he just pops down. Then he just leaves. And then the character that Ron's supposed to be, his wife is being sentenced to trial. And he's like, oh no, what am I going to do? My wife's all alone downstairs. Ron, you don't have a wife. Oh, right. And it's so funny. It's so good because in a movie that was so dark, that began so dark, because Deathly Hallows Part 1 did not have a happy opening. I mean, the opening sequence where they have to save Harry and bring him to the Weasley house. I forgot what it was called. The Burrow. Thank you. Whoever said that. No one said that. I just thought about it in my head. But, I mean, Hedwig died. Mad Eye died. It wasn't happy. So, you know, this sequence was just full of heart. It was definitely suspenseful because the way it ends where Ron, his arm gets spliced and it's like, yee, gross. But anyways, it's a charming scene. It's so funny. And then it ends like right before Ron gets his arm spliced. He tells his wife, he's like, Mary, go home, get the kids, send them away to vacation. It's too much. I love it. I love it. This is my favorite comedy moment from the Potter films. And there's a lot of great comedy moments, but we'll probably bring them up in the honorable mentions. So yeah, that sequence is my number 5.
I'm going to disagree. I think my favorite, like, full of heart moment and kind of like the one kind of breathing moment throughout the entire film where you're taking a break from all the dark stuff is when Harry and Hermione have that like nice little slow dance in that little cabin.
Oh yeah, that was nice. That was nice too. But I was talking about in terms of comedy, like that.
Comedy for sure. Yeah. Yeah. That's a great pick. Once again, listen, this episode you can't really refute like anyone's choices because there's so goddamn many choices. Yeah, no, that's a great pick. My number 5, it was a three-way battle. and you guys are going to start to see a trend where most of my picks were from a 2 or 3-way battle. As a person that never read the books, I never really got into the world on the pages. So when I am a kid watching these movies for the first time, and I see like the wizardry, like magical, like stuff happening in front of me for the very first time, I am immediately sucked into the world, and I'm kind of like put in this position of like, oh, this is what we're going to get. Oh, this is awesome. So there's a 3-way battle. I was going to either choose when Hagrid busted down the door and said, "You're a wizard, Harry," because that pretty much like put you in perspective, like, oh shit, this is not going to be like a kid growing up. This is going to be a kid thrown into a wizarding world. 2 is when the Sorting Hat is on Harry for the very first time, and you have that intense little sequence of like, oh shit, is he going to go towards Slytherin, Gryffindor, Hufflepuff, or Ravenclaw? That was a great one, and that also was like that captured and encompassed the school in a very magical way with the floating candle lights or candlesticks or whatever. The talking hat, all the professors behind him, all the kids in front of him. It was a nice little moment. But I think the one true moment to really kind of suck me into this world for the very first time is when Harry and Hagrid went into Diagon Alley for the very first time to get his wand and look at Hedwig. Best moment in terms of entering into the world for the very first time if you've never read the book. That to me was when they turned or they went through the brick wall or whatever. I was like, I feel like I'm in a different world, but I like it. I loved all the little shops that they had. Like I said, he gets his wand for the first time. He gets Hedwig for the first time. Hagrid kind of tells him like, oh, look over there. There's that shit. There's that shit over there. But it was the one moment to me at the beginning of the series that really kind of sucked me into the world because of how magical and mystical it was and putting us into the realm of magic. So that would be my number 5 pick. Brian, what do you say about that pick? I want to know. Listen, I don't give a shit about Brian's picks because he's read the books. So I want him to like kind of judge me in terms of just a moviegoer of the franchise. So what do you think of that pick?
Oh, it's totally understandable because it is the first sequence where it showcases like the magic, the fun, the essence. Like you're like, oh wow, we're now entering this world. We're not going back to the real world. We're in the magical world. And I could tell you that when I went to Diagon Alley, when I went to the Wizarding World, this is no joke. So I love, like, this is a full disclosure. John Williams' score, like his theme for this series is beautiful, and his score for the first 3 films, he scored the first 3, is fantastic. So I played the song that played when they walked into Diagon Alley. Like I lifted up my phone, and as I was walking, I literally played that song. People were looking like, what the fuck is this guy doing? And I'm like, bitch, this is my childhood. Fuck you. And it was great. It was wonderful. But yeah, that's a great scene because, like you said, it gets you into this world. It's like, now it's beginning. I'm ready.
Yeah. So
yeah, good choice.
That's my number 5 pick. I can't really say anymore. And I'm just going to let you guys know from this point on, I'm not going to stunt. The rest of my picks are all dark as shit because that's the way I roll and that's the way I like my movies. So I'm going to go ahead and say this right now. Deathly Hallows Part 1 and Part 2 are definitely my favorite, for sure. So, yeah, so moving on to number 4. Once again, Brian, please keep the description short.
Of course, sir. My number 4... the graveyard scene from Goblet of Fire.
Which one was that again? Because this isn't on my list, but my honorable mentions, I had the only graveyard pick I picked was when Harry went to his parents' grave.
That was in Deathly Hallows Part 1.
Yeah, in Deathly Hallows Part 1. That was a great scene.
That was beautiful. So subtle. Love it. This one is, I guess you could label it as Voldemort's first appearance / Cedric Diggory's death.
Okay.
So, now here's the thing. This scene, like at the time when I saw this film, I had not read the books. So I was like, this was my first exposure to Voldemort. And my God, I mean, he comes in, he kills Cedric Diggory. Well, he doesn't kill Cedric Diggory. Technically, Peter Pettigrew kills Cedric Diggory, but, we'll see. That's the nerd talking to me, but here we go. But anyway, it's intense. Like Harry's like, oh no, what am I gonna do? I can't go back. And the only way for him to go back is if he fights Voldemort and then grabs the cup and then he leaves. This scene was so intense to the point where it's like, this was the first PG-13 Potter movie, and this was, in all honesty, the most intense sequence in the entire film. It's the last match of the tournament, and I mean that whole sequence alone just begins terrifying. They go in this maze, and then they end up in this graveyard. Cedric gets killed. He has to fight Voldemort. It's really intense. In the book, it was portrayed very well. Like, it was so scary in the book. When I ended up reading the books, that sequence just really engrossed me. But in the movie, it was so good. And especially if you're someone who didn't know what was going to happen, didn't expect Cedric Diggory to die, it's like, wow, this franchise is now going into the realms of darkness. And it's not going back to the light, especially for quite some time. So, I mean, I just love the way that was all fought and everything. And I thought that Ralph Fiennes, for the amount of time that he portrayed Voldemort in that film, it was so compelling. And the thing is, Ralph Fiennes is fantastic as Voldemort. Like, that's another thing. We'll have to say that whenever we do a bunch of things. Ralph Fiennes is fantastic as Voldemort. And this sequence showcases that he's pretty awesome. And then we get more of him in the latter films, of course. So, yeah, this was my number 4. I didn't really want to say much about it, but it was such an intense scene. Like, it was such an emotionally gripping scene that when Harry ends up going back and the tears in his eyes, like saying, Cedric, he's like, oh, the Lord, wait, he's back, Lord Voldemort is back, and Cedric, I wanted to save him, but I couldn't do it. And then that shows Harry feels like it's his fault that Cedric died. Yeah. And it basically haunts him. Like, when you watch Order of the Phoenix, it basically haunts him, and people judge him, and then people forgive him. It's like that. So, yeah, that's my number 4.
Yeah, I had I don't have any picks from Goblet of Fire, but the one thing I do remember from Goblet of Fire the most is the games. I love the underwater sequence. I love the maze sequence. I love when he fights the beautiful white dragon in that pit of rocks. Like, guys, listen, I like Harry Potter a lot, but sometimes I forget names, so I have to just describe it. But yeah, Goblet of Fire, I remember the games the most, and of course, good old young Robert Pattinson is in that one. So. Yeah, that's a good pick. Our number 4. Here's the deal, folks. You know, when you watch a movie and your whole main objective of the film is to get sucked in and make sure like all the CGI is correct and make sure you are not taken out of the film whatsoever. Of course you do. Okay. So I remember when I was watching this in theaters, and once again, never read the books, so I had no idea this was coming. You know, when characters pop up throughout the entire franchise, sometimes they can seem annoying. And I really don't want them to be on screen that much, even if they're the comic relief. When this character showed up in this one, he did a good deed. And then, for some weird reason, David Yates, the director, convinced me that Daniel Radcliffe was holding a dead elf, a CGI elf, and made me believe it. I'm going with Dobby dying on that fucking beach because there's no sense of words that I could put together to when I was sitting in the theater and I was like, there is some conviction in this scene right here. He's literally holding nothing because it's a CGI character, but I fucking believed it. I believed that little house elf died on that beach, saving these 3 from Bellatrix's gross prison knife that she threw in the little portal, whatever. Guys, I almost lost it. I was like, Dobby looks like a piece of clay, and yet I feel for him. I feel for this little house elf that Harry Potter is holding on a beach, and then Dobby just dies, and he gets buried at the top of a little mountain, like the little house elf he is. So, God damn it, Dobby dying is my number 4 pick.
Oh my god, dude! When I read that book, I was in tears. And then when I heard about the movie, I'm like, I am so curious to see how they're gonna do this in the movie. The fact that they ended Deathly Hallows Part 1 with that scene. Oh, God.
That was
Dude.
actually. But speaking of that, that was actually my second pick. It was a tie between Dobby dying and the very end of part one when Voldemort picks up the Elder Wand out of Dumbledore's casket. It was between those two moments, but I picked Dobby dying just because, once again, I had no love for the elf when I saw him in Chamber of Secrets. But how in the hell could he come back 5 movies later and win me over emotionally? Fuck you, little Dobby.
You know what the annoying thing is with that character? Like, he was in every other book, and yet they only make him in 2 movies. Like, yeah, he's a central part of Chamber of Secrets, and all of a sudden he doesn't come back until the middle of part 1 of Deathly Hallows, and then that's it. Then you kill him. Like, if people read the books, then it's sad. It's like sad, but
it's super sad. He looks like a frail Benjamin Button just sitting in Daniel's like arms. And he's just like, Harry, I'm fucking bleeding, and like he's just his little arms are just like cringing, and he's just like,
dude, no, Harry, it felt like a fucking dog dying. Oh,
Harry,
God,
Harry, please hold me. I have no family. Please hold me, Harry. It's like, God damn it.
Stop.
That scene, it gets me every time. That little fucking CGI puppet, it gets me every time.
Stop. And then
that's my number 4.
This is a reference to the first like sequence we see in Deathly Hallows Part 2 when we go back to the characters. The first shot is Dobby's tombstone. It says, "Here lies Dobby, a free elf."
That free fucking elf.
He was free.
He was free.
That was the good thing. And he died in the arms of like his hero.
He died from a prison shank knife. Like, that's what Bellatrix threw at him. So
I know.
Dearly Lord.
I read the book and I saw the films. Yeah. Oh, God, that scene. Oh, I was hoping you didn't bring that one up, dude.
Of course I did. Of course I fucking did. Because it got me. It got me. Listen, it's hard to act against a CGI character, but when you can deliver it that well, I got to give you props for it. So yeah. So that's my number 4. So moving on to number 3, guys. We're moving along this Harry Potter train quite well. Brian, what do you got?
Well, I have another death. My number 3 is Dumbledore's death.
Okay, see, that didn't make my list because I chose Dobby over him, just because Dumbledore, very pivotal character. I did not read the books. I was kind of expecting it. It was still shocking, but I think Dobby's death was the most shocking to me because I had no fucking clue that they were going to kill little side characters like that.
Yeah. So the thing is with this, this was another sequence where I was kind of like hoping I was wondering how were they going to do this on film. The whole sequence is so intense. I mean, he goes up on the clock tower. Draco comes up. He's going to kill him. And then you think everything's going to go well because Draco, you know, for being the little bitch he is, like he says he can't do it. He's like, I have to do this or else he's going to kill me. And you kind of are starting. That's when you start feeling something towards Draco. Start slightly. And then all of a sudden, you know, Bellatrix and her lackeys come up and it's just like, do it. And then Snape comes in and says, no. And then he kills him. And then, of course, everyone was like, oh, shit. And I remember when I read the book, I'm like, you gotta be fucking kidding me. What the fuck, Snape? What the fuck? And then that's when Snape reveals he's the Half-Blood Prince. But the thing is with that sequence, it shocked everybody. Like, the reactions on everyone when they saw his body, like, right after Snape reveals he's the Half-Blood Prince, and then Harry goes back to the grounds of Hogwarts, sees everyone around Dumbledore's body, and then everyone raises up their wands and symbolizing him. It's a great scene. Really well acted. And then the emotion from Harry, I think Daniel Radcliffe showcased his true acting chops, particularly for the series, in that sequence. Well, in the film, to be quite honest. And I think it was just such a beautifully acted scene. That's why I kind of put it on. Also, it was very pivotal to Snape. And by the way, here he is right here. Respect. But anyways, yeah, it's very pivotal to the storyline, so that's why I put it on my list, and that's why it's my number 3.
You know what's really interesting is when I saw that in theaters, I was like, why in the hell is this installment rated PG? Why? Like, it's one of the darker ones. Like, fucking Dumbledore kicks it, and people are being a bunch of dicks at the end of that movie. So whatever. But yeah, Half-Blood Prince is not my favorite installment, but it's still enjoyable. But that's definitely my favorite sequence throughout the entire thing. And you got to keep in mind, once again, I will keep reiterating this. I have not read the books. So when Snape has done this, I've condemned the man until we get to, obviously, the next films. But, yeah, that was just a very pivotal moment for every character. Because that was the point where, like, dude, don't fuck with Dumbledore. Once you kill him, there's no going back. And so that's why my number 3 pick kind of ties in with that. So it was a 3-way battle once again. So of course you guys know I have to ramp it up. I have to milk it because that's just the way I go. All right. So my number 3 pick, because this kind of ties in with Brian's answer. 3-way battle between 3 different fights. The first fight was between Dumbledore and Voldemort and Order of the Phoenix in that really cool kind of like I think it was like a glass looking room.
Yeah, and there was no music to it either. Yeah,
it was great. So it was between that, when Bellatrix and Mrs. Weasley fought.
Not my daughter, you bitch.
Not my daughter, you bitch. That was a great scene. Everyone, listen. I went to the midnight show of that. People were fucking clapping and shit.
I was too.
Best moments. So that wasn't my pick though. I wanted to pick that because it was just so epic. My number 3 pick, because Dumbledore died, this fight took place. I got to go when McGonagall fights up against Snape in that fucking cafeteria. Dear Lord, I was like, you know what, Professor McGonagall? I wish you were my teacher because you are a badass. You've been quiet for literally most of the franchise. Then you come up and go, no, Snape, no. You're here to tear shit apart. We don't need you to do that. You killed Dumbledore. I don't trust you anymore. I'm going to fucking kick your ass. And she's like an old little lady. She's like a sweet little old lady. She bakes you fucking pie and cookies every weekend, and then she just comes up and she bloodsheds. And so that scene to me was just a very pivotal moment for the movie as a whole, because that was kind of like the good guys standing up to the establishment. It was also McGonagall's moment, which is great because I've always liked Maggie Smith in the movies. And then, of course, Snape doing his thing, trying to battle it out. And it was just really cool to see because the whole time throughout the franchise, these professors really never advocate, like, you know, these young, like, wizardly students, like, fighting against each other. And then you see the 2 professors going out, and it's like, dude, you know shit's about to get real when they both have had they're fed up with each other's shit, and they're going to go after it. So I love that moment. It to me beats it. Like, I'm gonna be honest with you guys, I don't have any Harry and Voldemort fights on here. I don't. The McGonagall and Snape fight is my favorite fight because here's the deal. I knew that Harry Potter and Voldemort were gonna fight, even not reading the books, because it's the hero versus the villain. So to me, that just seems like a cop out. Now, if Brian has it on his list, that's totally fine, understandable. I love those moments, but for me, I like the fights of people I didn't expect because I didn't read the books. So that's why I put McGonagall versus Snape at the end of, or was it part 1 or part 2? It was part 2, right?
Yeah.
Okay, part 2. Yeah, that was my favorite fight between 2 high wizards.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, what do you think about that?
Oh, that was a great sequence. Like, I mean, that whole movie, that's my favorite Potter film, tied with Prisoner of Azkaban. The thing for me, the thing that's so great, the thing that shocks me about you putting it up on the list, like, it's like you said, I mean, no one expected that fight to happen. Even if you didn't read the books, like, it's, like, so shocking. And even if you did read the books, it's like, no one ever expected Snape and McGonagall to fight. And the thing is, that fight is so short, but it's still very compelling. And the way it ends, like, him just evaporating to the air, and then she says coward, it's like,
yeah, that,
it's like, wow. It's like that great of a sequence. And, yeah, I mean, it's an awesome fight. Well, I mean, everything in that whole movie is fantastic. Well, even whenever someone froze up, it's amazing.
Well, it's almost like she was playing us as the audience, like, because she was tired of it. She was fed up with this evil motherfuckery happening in this school, and she was like, "No, I'm not gonna stand for this shit. I'm gonna fucking kick your ass." And when he left, like you said, she's like, "Coward, you son of a bitch, asshole." And it's like, "Yeah, that's right. You fucking tell him." So, but then again, this is also before the reveal, which, you know, so yeah, so whew. Man, I have no idea what you picked then. All right. Going on to number 2. Guys, this is really crucial. These are the top 2 moments in Harry Potter film franchise history. Now, I'm assuming Brian probably did the opposite. He probably picked a bunch of earlier moments for his top moments instead of me putting them at the bottom. So, Brian, am I right?
You're half right.
Half right. All right.
Okay, so my number 2 is the sequence from Prisoner of Azkaban. It is the sequence where we first meet Sirius Black.
That one's a good sequence.
That was, in my opinion, the most emotionally gripping sequence in the entire film. I mean, other than when Harry, cracks his voice saying, he was their friend! Like, just, oh, God. See, can I ask you your honest opinion on that scene? When you watched it, did you try not to laugh?
Okay, listen. As much as I love Harry Potter, they're not, by any means like, perfect cinema. Some of the line delivery and some of the lines are pretty cheesy, but given the world, I will let it pass.
I will let it pass too, but it is hard not to laugh at that particular line. It's because his voice cracks. That's what makes it funny.
Well, Prisoner of Azkaban was like that. Between that and Goblet of Fire was a transition period for their puberty.
That is true, but it's too much. I remember this was a funny story. It was like in the summer. Francesca sent me a Snapchat of her watching Prisoner of Azkaban, and it was that particular sequence. And at the end, you could just hear her go, like she was like dying of laughter after he said he was their friend. Oh, I love that so much. But no, this sequence, I mean, it's inside the Whomping Willow. Ron gets taken hostage by the dog, and you're like, who is this dog? It happens to be Sirius Black. Harry and Hermione go inside. They find him, and then they see Sirius Black. And Harry wants to kill him in that moment because, as you guys may remember, people think that Sirius Black is the one that killed Lily and James Potter or told Voldemort to kill them. And, I mean, that whole storyline was really heartbreaking because, like, when Lupin comes in and basically stops them, he's like, Sirius, don't kill him. And he's like, oh, I had enough time of it. 12 years of it in Azkaban. And you're like, damn. This guy, like, and this is when people don't know if he's good or bad. People are like, I don't know if I feel for this guy or not because 12 years in Azkaban for someone he didn't even do. It's crazy. And then you learn that he didn't do it. But that sequence is so emotionally gripping because we got introduced to one of the best characters in the whole series. And Gary Oldman portrays his character so goddamn well. It's like, yeah, I mean, Gary Oldman is no stranger to the nerd world. Obviously, he played Commissioner Gordon in the Dark Knight trilogy. But I loved him as Sirius Black, and this was a great introduction scene. And it was just so intense. And then we learned that Ron's Rat Scappers is Peter Pettigrew. We learned that too. And it's crazy. And then we learned that Lupin is a wolf. And it's like so much revelation. So much. And it's crazy. That's why that scene is so important. But it's also, to me, one of the most emotionally engaging sequences from that movie. Because to me, while I love Deathly Hallows Part 2, and like I said, that's my favorite one, Prisoner of Azkaban is like a close second just because of how different it was from the first two. Like of how it started the whole dark trend, the more mature themes in this series. So yeah, that sequence is my number 2.
Okay. Yeah, I haven't seen Prisoner of Azkaban in a long time. Yeah, it's been a minute for some of them. I only remember, Deathly Hallows very well because obviously those are the most recent ones that have come out and most recent ones I've seen. Yeah, I don't have any Prisoner of Azkaban picks, unfortunately. Like I said, Deathly Hallows to me was both of them affected me a lot just because, like I said, never read any of the books, so I didn't expect anything. And so all those like curveballs thrown at me from part 1 and part 2, I was like, okay, yeah, these are definitely my favorite too. So speaking of the Deathly Hallows, my number 2 pick, this is going to seem like an odd pick, but as I was watching it in the theater, I really liked kind of like the folklore behind the entire franchise with the Deathly Hallows. My number 2 pick is the really cool animation of the explanation of the Deathly Hallows. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, it's called the Three Brothers. That's what it's called.
Yeah, well, I just meant like that little animation sequence
Yes.
of like them
Yeah,
describing what they are.
Yeah, but that's what the story is that it's called. It's called The Three Brothers, like that particular storyline. So
Yeah,
yeah.
I mean, because you have to keep in mind, once again, did not read the books. So when they are describing this and they're saying that the Sorcerer's Stone is one of them, I was like, what the fuck? That's the first movie, yo. So, and then,
Well,
yeah, and then the Invisible Cloak, that was in Chamber of Secrets. So it's like, what the fuck? And then, of course, the Elder's Wand, that's Dumbledore. So it was just really cool to kind of see someone explain to me as a stupid audience member. None of you guys that watch the movies are stupid, but since I'm a simpleton and did not read the books, it was very nice, and the animation was very crisp. It almost felt like a dark fairy tale. I really loved just the whole story behind the three brothers, and just it's kind of like the Infinity Gems and the stones for Marvel Cinematic Universe. You gotta collect them all so you can become the most badass motherfucker on the planet. So yeah, I really like that, and I really love the whole idea of like the broken Horcruxes, and you gotta go find them and destroy them and stuff. And that was one of my favorite aspects about the Deathly Hallows films, was finding those little gems and like destroying the shit out of them. So yeah, I really liked that little animation sequence of basically the folklore of Deathly Hallows. I thought it was really cool, interesting, and I can only imagine if you were reading the book, that's what you probably could have imagined. So I bet book readers probably saw that little sequence and was like, yeah, when I was reading that's kind of like what I imagine how it was described or whatever. So I don't know. I enjoyed that little sequence, especially when I saw it in theaters. I was like, this is really cool. The Sorcerer's Stone. What the fuck? That movie was like 11 years ago, and they're tying it all back in. This is so great because I'm a simpleton. I didn't read a book. All right, so that's my number 2 pick. All right, guys, this is going to be interesting for our number 1 picks, because Brian just said that he is, or I am half right on the whole early moments thing. Brian, I'm going to take a wild guess. Out of all the moments that you have out of all 8 movies, I'm going to say your number 1 pick is when Hermione, Ron, and Harry meet for the very first time on the train going to Hogwarts.
No.
Oh.
I mean, obviously that's the pivotal moment of the entire franchise, because that's when the true adventure begins, when they first meet. But no, I didn't want to put that as my number 1 seed, because that's not my favorite sequence in the whole series. It's an important sequence, but it's not my favorite one. Here's the thing with me. See, when I read the books and all these characters were dying, it broke me, and I was always curious to see how they were going to do it in the films. This, to me, is the best acted sequence in the entire franchise of Harry Potter. Now, I'm also kind of going to cheat slightly by including part of this, which ties into another important sequence of not only Deathly Hallows Part 2, but the entire franchise itself. So my number 1 is the sequence of Snape's memories, which also includes Snape's death.
Ladies and gentlemen, out of all the fucking moments that Brian and I could have picked, we have the same number 1.
Woohoo!
Okay, so let me just my answer, I actually put Snape loved the shit out of Lily Potter. That was my answer. Listen, you have to understand, for me as a person that didn't pick up the books, when that moment happened, I was thinking to myself, out of what is that, 10 years of the whole movie going experience of those movies in theaters, I started thinking, I was like, oh my God, that means everything that Snape did was to protect Harry because he had an unconditional love with his mother. And so you're thinking to yourself, all the bad shit he did, he did it to protect him. And that completely twists your whole perspective on the whole fucking franchise. And and you immediately switch over to go like, oh, he's a good guy now. Like, he's not even bad anymore. Because the whole time up until this point, like, our whole list, listen, when him and McGonagall were fighting, the guy was still an asshole at the point. When he killed Dumbledore, he was still an asshole at that point. But when this moment happened, and we start to see the flood of memories from Snape, and that crucial moment where he is holding a dead Lily Potter in his arms and crying, I thought to myself, what? This wasn't even Harry Potter's story. This was Snape's story. And at that moment, my mind was blown as an audience member and a person that was a fan of the franchise. And I was satisfied. I was like, damn, damn, damn. We followed these three little youngsters throughout their trials and tribulations of school. But little did we know, the side character of Snape was actually the through line through all 8 fucking movies. So that is why that is my number 1 pick. So, Brian, as someone that read the book, please tell me why this moment was crucial for the movies.
Well, see, here's the thing. That's when people started to know that Snape was not the bad guy. He was actually a good guy. Now, he's not a hero, but this is a character that was so broken, and you finally understand why he was the way he was and why he was protecting Harry Potter. And that's why it was his mission, or why that was his mission. And also the reason why I put this is because, to me, like I said, this is the best acting of the entire franchise. This is where I said Alan Rickman needs to be nominated for Best Supporting Actor at the Academy Awards. Not just for those sequences, but the sequence where he does die, that single tear comes down, Harry puts in that little flask, and Snape's like, look at me. You have your mother's eyes. Those fucking eyes. I mean, it's a recurring thing throughout the entire series, but when Snape says it, then he dies, then that music by Alexander Desplat is playing in the background, that dramatic music. It's like, that was one of the best performances of that entire year, 2011. It was one of the best performances. So then when you get to the memories, it's so well done that you're just like, they're putting everything here, and you're like, what? What? And I remember when I read the book, I was like shocked and everything, because then that sequence also revealed that Harry himself is one of the Horcruxes, and that's why he has to go to the forest to get Voldemort to kill the part of Voldemort that's inside his body. So that was basically a big lead up to something intense as it could have been, and I just think that it was just a beautifully done sequence, and it was the most important sequence in this entire series, because it basically explains everything we have questions about. And sure, there are other sequences where they're like, oh, why is this that? Why is that happening? Or why did this happen? And all that stuff, yada, yada, yada. But this sequence is the most important sequence in not only the entire book series, but also the entire film series. So, yeah, like I said, the best sequence in the entire series. I loved it to death. And I remember when I saw the movie opening night on midnight, I'm just like, yeah, they couldn't have done a better job portraying this, and they did such a great job. Whoever edited the sequence, big props to you. Alexander Desplat, your score, David Yates' direction, Alan Rickman's performance. Just beautiful sequence. Probably my favorite sequence of 2011, because honestly, every time I bring up 2011, I always say that 50-50 and The Descendants were my favorite films of that year, tied. Well, now I think it's a three-way. It's between 50-50, The Descendants, and definitely Hollis Part 2 as my top favorite films of 2011, excuse me. So, yeah, Snape's memories, Snape's death, best sequence in the entire series, my number 1.
You know, when Alan Rickman passed, a lot of people were like, I'm going to remember him for Die Hard as Hans Gruber. Nah, fam. I will always remember him for Snape. And this
exactly.
Is one of the reasons why, because he is the pivotal part of this entire franchise, and he spins it on its head. So, yeah, that's a good pick, man. So, I don't know about you guys, but we have a pretty solid fucking list right here. There's a lot to explain, so read it, and there you go. Anyways, there's a lot of moments, guys, and this was really hard to kind of whittle down, and just to do that with some honorable mentions real fast. I'll go when the Sorting Hat put him in Gryffindor, when Harry and Ron flew in the car in Chamber of Secrets, when Hedwig died, when Snape was revealed as the Half-Blood Prince, pretty much any game of Quidditch. I enjoy that shit. Mm-hmm. Harry and Voldemort fighting at the end of part 2, and in the woods. Neville being a badass and stepping up out of the fucking ashes as this nerdy little kid. And he's like, I am going to kick some ass now. Good for you, Neville. I love the boardroom meeting in the beginning of part 1 with Voldemort and his shitty people pretty much sitting all around a table, and that fucking snake is like slithering around. Yeah, Voldemort taking the Elder Wand out of the graveside of the parents. Pretty much any scene with the Weasleys, because the Weasleys are adorable and they're likable.
They're me.
That is true. And then all three of them meeting on the train for the first time. Very good moment. And then my favorite humorous moment is when shit. What's the kid's name? The kid Dursley.
Oh, Dudley Dursley.
Dudley. All right. So, anyways, my favorite comedic moment, always and forever will be, is at the fucking zoo, and he falls into the snake pit or whatever. It's so funny because this is the first time where Harry finally uses his powers, right? So he's like sitting on the floor, and he's like tired of Dudley being a fat asshole towards him. So Dudley's like has his hands on the little cage or whatever. He lets the glass disappear from his wizardy powers. He falls in like a fat guy falling on like a banana peel. He falls into the pit, and then he like wakes up all confused and shit, and like he's like, "Oh, mommy, daddy!" He
gets locked in.
Yeah, he gets locked in. He's like, "Ah!" And then his parents are like, "Oh my god!" It's the best comedic moment throughout the entire franchise. It's one of my favorites, and that was also the first time where we see Harry use his powers in the Muggle world. So, yeah, that's my romance.
Okay.
What about you?
Okay, I'm gonna echo pretty much everything on the list that you put. That comedic moment for sure. I want to talk about more comedic moments. Definitely the opening in Prisoner of Azkaban with that fucking the sister of Vernon Dursley, that fucking fat woman, and then Harry turns her into fat. She flies away. It's hilarious.
I remember that.
In Half-Blood Prince, I don't know if you remember this sequence, but when Harry uses that like potion, he drinks all of it, and it's basically him like stoned and stuff.
Yeah.
He's like, I feel like going to Hagrid's tonight because I feel like it's the place to be tonight. And then he just walks past random people, and he's like, hi. Like he just says hi to like random people. And then he runs into Slughorn outside, and he's like, Harry, and then Harry turns around, he's like, sir. Like he just randomly says, sir. So many other moments for sure. All the Quidditch sequences, best being probably the Prisoner of Azkaban one, because that was the darkest one. Because he basically almost falls to his death. The fireworks sequence in Order of the Phoenix. There's too many, dude. There's too many. I love every moment in this whole series. I love it all.
And speaking of that, getting to some dishonorable mentions, the only thing I didn't really dislike about, I just don't really care for, is that when you're watching all these dark like installments and stuff, and then you get to Half-Blood Prince and it's PG, and you're like, oh no, why did it drop down a rating? You want to know why? Because basically most of the movie, besides all the dark moments, are nothing but high school little romances. And I get it. It's a part of the story, and you're supposed to. They're in their puberty stage at this point, and like, oh, they're finding themselves, they're horny and stuff. I get it, but it's just when you mix it with like Dumbledore's death and like the reveal of Half-Blood Prince and that whole ending sequence, when they do the prom type shit, it's just, I don't know. I really don't care for it. It's not like anything that takes me out of the experience, but it's like that is the only weakest part to me, is when basically they act like teenagers. I know it's awful for me to say, but they need to progress as characters like that. Yeah.
No, I get you. And this is a funny story. When I was younger, one of my friends, we basically tried to reenact the sequence. The first sequence where Ron and Harry are driving the car in Chamber of Secrets. Like we got into, I remember this story. It was like, I was 9 years old, and I remember I did two shorts that are never, like, they're nowhere to be found. I did one reenacting the pod racing sequence in Phantom Menace, and then I did one like this. I was Ron, of course, because if people don't know, I am a ginger. I'm not ashamed to admit it. That's what I am. So then my friend, God, fuck, I forgot his name. It was 10 years ago when I did this stuff. I was fucking like 8 years old when I did this. So I borrowed my video camera. We went into his mom's car, and we basically attached the camera to like the windshield, and we were trying to reenact the scene, and we tried like shaking it up. We got some guy to like shake up the camera for us, and this was so stupid because the car at one point just like moved, and we didn't know what the hell was happening because we didn't have the keys in the ignition. Oh God, I was in so much trouble that day, and I didn't even cause this. I wasn't even actually, I was the one driving technically. Oh God, because I was playing Ron. Oh yeah, that's why I got in trouble. Yeah, that was a fun childhood memory. But yeah, to me, I will agree with you kind of on the romance. The romance in particular with Half-Blood Prince, with the girl that falls in love with Ron. First of all, that girl needs to go like suck someone else's dick.
Seriously, go away.
Get the fuck out of here. And the actress that played that character was perfect because that's how the character was in that book. She was fucking annoying, and she was annoying as fuck, and it worked. But it just didn't really fit with the tone. And I will agree with you. I don't know why it was PG. Like, I'm just wondering, like, was it not as dark as, like, Order of the Phoenix and Goblet of Fire? Maybe, but to be quite honest, it was still dark. Like, sure, there maybe weren't as many dark sequences until the end of the film, but still.
Snape pushes an old man off of the edge of a building. How is that not dark?
Because you don't see him pushing it. You just hear him say the spell, and then you see him fall. That's it.
Still.
He doesn't. You don't see him plop to the ground. You just see him fall slow motion. Then it cuts to Harry's emotions, then yelling "Snape!" and that's it.
MPAA, you make no fucking sense.
Exactly. That's why you did that thing on your podcast when Magnificent Seven came out.
It's fucking ridiculous, man. Yeah, it's weird. It's like I get it. Like the first three are PG, sure, because the first two are very, very kid friendly, and the third one's borderline, PG-13. Goblet of Fire is PG-13, or the Phoenix is PG-13. Cool. We're getting to darker stuff, and it goes back to PG. What? And then it goes back to PG-13. It's like, stop. You just stop it. You're drunk. Go home. So that's it for all of our dishonorable mentions, guys. So what say you guys once again? What are some of your favorite moments from Harry Potter, and what are some of your least favorite moments? Comment place from my face and let me know. Brian, what are we doing next week?
Well, I can tell you right now that next week's episode is not going to be as convolutedly crazy as this one was. Next week, in honor of Allied, we're going to be honoring the film's director, Mr. Robert Zemeckis.
Oh, shit. Okay, so spoiler alert, you know that one film franchise is probably going to dominate the one or top two spots. Let's keep it real, let's keep it funky, and let's keep it 100% fresh. We ain't going to stunt. That's going to be our answer. But it is going to be interesting to see where all the others in his filmography lie. But I know for a fact that one certain franchise will probably dominate one or top two spots. So yeah, I'm excited to talk about Mr. Zemeckis. So that'll be a lot of fun. This episode was fun. Next week will be fun. Next week is also a good old Black Friday weekend, so don't go die out there, and please come back and listen to the show.
Yeah, best of luck.
Yeah, best of luck. Good luck, everyone. Next week should be a lot of fun. It's Thanksgiving week, guys. So, until then, you guys have a good Thanksgiving and shit. So, Brian, where can the people find you online?
You can find me on Twitter at BrianSuts98 and on YouTube at Brian Sutfield.
Yeah, you can follow me on Twitter. Subscribe to the YouTube page. I do shit. Podcasts. You guys know the fucking drill. I'm not good at this stuff. There's a reason why I'm not as big as I am, because I don't beg. What was I gonna say? I think that's it. So, guys, it's late. So I stayed way too late last night. So we'll see you guys next week for another episode of Top 5 Saturdays Live. I'm Chase Lee.
I'm Brian Sutfield.
And we'll see you guys next week for another episode of this shitty, fantastic podcast. And goodbye.